part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome to another Reghi and Roda podcast powered by MGM Northfield Park right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. And shout out to our fantabulous producer, Ty Courts, making sure all of you get this out there in the podcatosphere. And Michael Reghi, always great to hook back up with you again to talk sports. And we're going to talk some NBA Finals a little later in the R&R podcast. But we want to start with a couple of local teams. The Guardians, we'll get to them in a second, but the Browns, even though it's not football season, Michael, the Browns still making headlines because of what another team in the NFL did, and that team being the Arizona Cardinals, getting rid of wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins, and of course, D-Hop and Deshaun Watson played together with the Houston Texans, and now the big to-do, I guess, is should the Browns consider signing DeAndre Hopkins and adding him to that wide receiver room? And I'll use a Michael Reghi term. What say you, Reg, about the possibility of D-Hop reuniting with Watson and coming to Cleveland?
Certainly an interesting possibility, Kenny. I have a feeling that that Andrew Berry is going to be interested. Yes. Now the wide receiver room was, we got Elijah Moore. And as we said, he's a slot guy.
Right.
So right now, even though, Amari Cooper is, when I say injured, he just wasn't really able to participate in OTAs, Ken.
Yeah.
And so, right now, Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Elijah Moore, your slot guy, those are your top three. I have no idea what their plan is for David Bell. He didn't get a lot of run last year as a rook, so we'll see there. But Kenny, I'd if it was something, and as you brought up, I think it's something that might be advantageous and a positive for Deshaun Watson, right? Why not? Why not bring him in? I mean, the guy has certainly been a producer in terms of his catches, his volume catches, touchdowns in his career. I don't think there's a lot to lose, Ken. I don't know, unless it's flat out a money thing for Andrew Berry. But other than that, I don't think there's a lot to lose with it.
Reg, I look at it this way, okay? The Browns are built to win now. This isn't a building process for 2 or 3 years down the road, okay? With
Right.
the money they've spent on their quarterback, the moves they've made this offseason, they're trying to win ASAP. And for me, and no offense to that wide receiver room, the only one I truly believe in that's established himself is Amari Cooper. There are guys that are young guys that are starting maybe to prove themselves and would be nice 2s and 3s or 3s and 4s. But if you have the opportunity to bring in a Pro Bowl caliber wide receiver and all it's going to cost you is money because he's a free agent, he was cut by the Cardinals. So you don't have to give up any more draft picks, which you have very few of as far as top draft picks. So for me, if I can improve the wide receiver room and I can do so with a player that Deshaun Watson had success with already, okay, I'm going to make that move if I'm Andrew Berry, if DeAndre Hopkins wants to come here and if DeAndre Hopkins is healthy. I need to know that. And they'll know that because they'll be able to do the physical if there is an interest. The only, I guess, setback or the negative thought on this is, does it make you as a GM look bad that you're bringing in a free agent to play him over Donovan Peoples-Jones, who was a draft pick, over David Bell, who was a draft pick, Cedric Tillman, who was a draft pick, and a guy that you traded for this offseason? I would hope that the general manager would put his ego aside and do what is best for the team. And again, if it's just money and they're going to have around $12 million come June 1st to spend, I would definitely go out and bring DeAndre Hopkins in here again if he is 100% healthy, Reg.
Well, right. Yeah. Now, do you get the sense that this whole thing was just an Arizona Cardinal money drop? Flat out, they don't believe they're going to be a team that can contend, as you were saying about for the Browns. It's about right now, win right now. Well, Arizona's not in that same position.
Right.
So they just flat out said, you know what, we're going to start cutting some losses here. He is one of the, I guess, more, if you will, one of the more prominent players now on the roster, and also with what he makes. I didn't hear of anything that there was a huge problem with him. But the biggest thing is, and we've already, both of us have hit on it. See, this is about you made this big push with Deshaun Watson. Now, if you've got opportunities to do whatever you can to improve him and his comfortability, and with someone he's already achieved with as he goes in, and Kenny, come on, look, this is an extremely important year for the Browns, right?
Yep.
It's a big year for Deshaun Watson. It's a big year for the ownership group. It's a big year for the head coach. They got to get in the playoffs this year. I'm not going to get ludicrous and start saying they got to win a Super Bowl this year, but they damn well better be in the playoffs, and at least to me, be a 10-11 win football team, Ken. So you made this move and decided that Deshaun Watson was the main thrust, right? That was going to get them there. Well, then you better do everything you damn well can that's going to put him in the most advantageous position possible. And if that's bringing in a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, then you damn well better do it.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on this. And they had good years together, right? And they've, according to Deshaun Watson today at the Browns charity golf outing, they've maintained a good relationship over the years. And he's spoken to, D-Hop recently. So we'll see. Now, we may be saying, yeah, go get him. He may want the bottom, dollar,
sure.
Right? What's the last dollar
right.
he can get, right?
Exactly.
And so he may want to go somewhere else, or he may want to go to what he thinks is a better team for a chance to win a Super Bowl, meaning the Buffalo Bills, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Kansas City Chiefs, if they have any interest. So it comes down to, all right, what can you offer him if you're the Browns? Well, you're in the neighborhood of about $12 million come June 1st that you'll have under the cap. You have a quarterback he's played with and had success with. You've got a team on paper that looks like it should contend for a playoff spot, right? Yep. And you've got an opportunity to play right away and be the number 2 guy in what should be a productive offense with a franchise caliber quarterback. So there's a lot of positives you can offer him. It just comes down to what is the most important thing to DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, absolutely. And the bottom line, and then, the almighty dollar is probably going to be a large part of that too.
Yep.
And now, so we're going to find out, as you said, it's a position that over the course of the last 3 years, Andrew Berry has put a lot of attention toward with his draft picks. So maybe it would take a little bit of Andrew Berry adjusting himself.
Right.
And so there's a couple of things there. That, and then how much does Hopkins want? And does, he want to be a part of this as you laid out? Or would there be, other teams that he feels had an opportunity to go bigger, further, better for him? So there's a lot there. But our point is, for us, our conversation is, go ahead and go the full mile here.
Yep.
Right. Go ahead and go the full mile and see if you can do it. Because, again, I really think that it'd be something that at least, on the surface, gives you great opportunity to get Deshaun Watson where every Browns fan wants him to be. And that is, again, the type of quarterback he was with the Houston Texans for his last couple of years before coming here.
Reg, if this team was in developmental mode, and they wanted to develop wide receivers, I wouldn't waste the money or the time, because then you're trying to build something for 2 or 3 years down the road. But that's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to win right now. And there is already an established relationship on the field and off the field. It'll be like riding a bike again. You just get on and start pedaling with Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins. They know each other. And so it would be as if they didn't skip a beat, in my opinion. He might be a little slower, not as athletic, but still, Pro Bowl caliber guy. And I'm all about giving Deshaun Watson and Kevin Stefanski as many weapons as possible. And I'm not going to worry about 2 or 3 years down the road, because guess what? They have another losing season this year. Both guys, Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, going to be looking for work elsewhere. So I don't think they're worried about 2 or 3 years down the road.
Well, they shouldn't. If they are, something's really wrong then. They better really have some meeting of the minds if that's the case. But again, like we brought up, I don't think it is. This team knows that the administration, Andrew Berry, the head coach, I think they know. You just said, Kenny, if they don't win this year, I can't see either one of them then maintaining their jobs going into 2024. So that's what it's all about. And, we have said many times, this roster is good. It's a good roster. But when you got an opportunity again, you got to look at everything. Is it the best roster in football? Well, no. Again, does anybody think the Browns are a Super Bowl contender? Again, like I said, I can't go that far. They got to prove to me first that they are going to be a 10 to 11 win football team. Hell, you'd like 12, 13, Ken. I don't know if that's realistic, but I know damn well, you better be looking at 10 and 7, right? If you can't look at 10 and 7, then, what are we even talking about here? Huh? Because again, you got to win now. You got to start making these type of moves. They need, Kenny, I'd say, and we know the NFL, it changes like a blink, but to me, they got them, 3 years in a row at least. You better be looking at making the playoffs 3 years in a row here. At least three.
Yeah.
Because, again, of the commitment you made with your starting quarterback.
Yes. And you've got to win now. And that's what this is all about. And $230 million guaranteed to a quarterback, you better give him whatever he needs. And I've got to believe, even though he kind of downplayed it a little bit and said, it'd be nice to have him, but I don't have that kind of pull. Well, if you're guaranteed $230 million, your voice is heard loud and clear in the front offices. And if he wants him and Hopkins wants to come here, then you better make it happen. Now, if Hopkins doesn't want to come here, then it's out of their control and it won't matter. But if he does, then you better make it happen for both parties involved there.
Without doubt. And so let's see these next couple of weeks now here before you get into the next. I think the next OTAs are really the second week of June. I think there's another 3 or 4 days of OTAs. So, we'll see. We'll see how this starts to play out. And if Andrew Berry starts to, discuss where the thinking might be here with regard to DeAndre Hopkins.
All right, Red. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep an eye on this over the summer and in the coming weeks with the Browns and DeAndre Hopkins. Let's turn our attention to the Cleveland Guardians, who just, while we're taping this, dropped an 8-5 decision at the Baltimore Orioles. The bad news is it snaps their 2-game winning streak. Roda, that's not a winning streak. You have to win 3 games in a row. That's what a winning streak is. Thank you, Lou Brown. But 2 in a row for the Guardians this year, that is a winning streak, snapped. But they did score 5 runs in back-to-back games, Reg, as they have the worst offense in all of Major League Baseball, the fewest home runs in all of Major League Baseball, either the worst or second to last worst batting average in all of Major League Baseball. And they are now 24-30 on the year, 6 games under 500 in the AL Central. How concerned are you about this baseball team?
Very. Kenny, you know how much I love hitting. It's difficult for them to watch them, Ken. It's difficult to watch them. I was having a conversation about this the other day with a former, professional minor league hitting coach, and we were talking about hitting, and he and I were saying the same thing, just the plate discipline. And we're talking overall here in the grand scheme of things, plate discipline, a lot of times just non-existent for this team.
Yeah. They
don't look for pitches, the way you need to in certain areas of the strike zone. It's difficult to watch. And I don't know. I don't know how they're going to find a way to pull themselves out of this. You can say, "Oh yeah, well, we can get rid of the hitting coach." Well, you know what? No, you get guys if they're in a major league lineup and they're an everyday player. Well, then damn it, you got to be better than this. You got to put yourself and your team, whatever position you're hitting at in a lineup, and do the things necessary so that you got to be able to put 4 runs a game on the board, Ken. 4. And this team, in most cases, can't do that. And that's what I say. It's tough to watch on a night like tonight. Yeah, they put up 5, but Baltimore was up 7-0 and kind of took the foot off the gas pedal a little bit and started walking Indian Guardians hitters. So I don't know. Difficult for me to watch. It's tough for me to watch as someone who really enjoys hitting and the science of hitting and going all the way back to the Ted Williams stuff we all read about as kids when we were playing, and however long that lasted. But yes, I'm a little bit at times. I'll keep it nice and say dismayed by them. Dismayed that borderline gets disgusted, Ken, with what they look to do and don't get accomplished offensively.
Check out some of these notes that I found from the various beat reporters on Twitter over the last 24 to 48 hours, Reg. Yesterday, they beat the Orioles 5-0, right?
Yep.
It was Cleveland's first win by 3 runs or more since March 31st. Okay. So think about that. That means they've been playing a lot of 1-run games to the tune of 25 1-run games through the first 54 contests. So almost half of their games have been 1-run games, and they are 11-14 in those 1-run games to this point. And as I mentioned earlier, they haven't hit a home run since last Tuesday. We're taping this on Tuesday night, May 30th, right? So the 23rd of May is the last time they hit a home run, when Will the Thrill Brennan went yard in a 4-2 loss to the White Sox. And as a team, 30 home runs, which is dead last since the advent of the 162-game schedule back in 1961. The team with the least home runs is the 1979 Houston Astros, when they hit 49 round trippers that entire year in 79. So if the Guardians come close to that, this is going to be a really long season. Hopefully they get to triple digits before this is all said and done. But if you do the math, that's going to be a struggle, Reg, right? 162 games, 54 times 3 is what? 54, that's 162, right?
Yep.
So
they're third of the way in.
Yeah, so that means 90 home runs. So it's it is very tough to watch offensively. I've been down to a couple of games this year. We did our show, the Kenny and JT show on WHBC, before the game, and I stayed to watch. And they are offensively challenged. Tito's not much he can do when you have an outfield that between the 3 of them right now. Let's see. Straw doesn't have a home run. I think Kwan's got 1, and Brennan's got 2 or 3, whatever it is, right?
Yep, that's it.
And Gonzalez is down on the farm. He's not helping.
Nope.
So, I mean, it is tough to watch. And then you look at the catchers, Zunino and Gallagher, and that's just awful. Maybe the worst platoon, catching position in all of Major League Baseball right now.
It is. And again, I don't know whether there's going to be a quick fix, Ken, or an end in sight to this offensive lethargy that the Guardians have. They just aren't. You don't have a full lineup of everyday major league capable hitters, and it's tough too because you got a pretty good pitching staff, right? And a bullpen that can. If you give them leads late in the game, usually get the job done for you. But, this offense is just dog drool as our man, the late great Jeff Sindelar would say.
Roda, they're dog shit. That's what he'd say off the air. He'd clean it up on the radio. They're dog crap, Roda. But off the air is when he was really at his best, and he'd let you know what he really. Could you imagine Sindelar having to watch this offense? Oh my God, he'd be losing it. What? I don't care if he hits it with his stick. Yeah, it would be.
Yeah,
it'd be.
That's right.
God bless him, man. God bless him.
But is right.
Yeah. But yeah, the starters. I mean, you've got Bieber at least for now, right? Quantrill, McKenzie and Savali are due back sometime soon, but Tanner Bybee and Logan Allen have been outstanding to this point.
Right, they have. Yes, they have.
At least you've got three guys in Shane Bieber, Logan Allen, and Tanner Bybee right now. And then if you get McKenzie and Savale back, it's a nice 1 through 5. Clase's blown 5 or 6 saves, whatever it is. And he looks a little off at times, but it's still one of the better back ends when Karinchak isn't worried about the pitch clock and can focus on the hitter.
You shouldn't be 6 games. I'm with the pitching. That as solid as it's been, you should not be 6 games under 500 at the third of the way through a Major League Baseball season.
Right. Now, the only good thing for them is they do play in the crappy AL Central, and nobody is running away with it as they entered tonight's action 3.5 back in third place behind the Twins, who they will play in a 4-game series starting Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in Minnesota, and they're already 2-1 against the Twinkies. So that's the only, if there's one bright spot, it's that they do play in the AL Central and that they still have a shot, should they get hot like they did last year, of getting back in this thing. But you can forget a wild card. If they're going to make, there's going to be one team making the playoffs, in my opinion, from this division, and that's the division winner, and that's it.
That's all. You're right. And can you imagine if they had to have, it's down to, what is it now, 13 or 14 games a year? But if they had to play in the American League East, where they had to play Tampa Bay, Baltimore, and the Yankees, they wouldn't be sniffing anywhere near the top of that division. So, I mean, it's a godsend that the way Major League Baseball is configured right now, that they're playing in probably the, if it's not the least average division in baseball, it's right there, real close.
There is no help on the farm when it comes to hitting.
Not really.
The only way they might be able to address that is via trade. August, I think, 1st is the trading deadline, and the area of strength for them is shortstop, with major league and minor league players, and pitching. And maybe they can take a Zach Plesac. Maybe they can take a Quantrill or Savali, possibly, for a team out there looking for starting pitching in return for a big league bat, or if they want to add some bats down on the farm that they like as prospects, they could look that way. But Reg, there's really not much they can do as far as the offense goes. They're going to need Josh Naylor. They're going to need Josh Bell and Jose Ramirez. And Jimenez, who they paid $100 million to, and Rosario or Gabriel Arias, somebody, to get hot and provide some, maybe not home runs all the time, but at least some extra base hits, hit the ball in the gap instead of station to station baseball.
Josh Bell hits the ball on the ground way too much, Ken. Somebody's got to work on it. He's got to get the ball, in the air. He's got to, pattern his swing so that, listen, man, if you're going to make outs and hit 220, you better hit the ball in the air, because you want a few guys, like you said, at least drive a gap here and there. I'm not asking for 30 home runs, because, really, you only got one guy on this squad that I was watching him tonight too. Poor Jose Ramirez. I mean, he swung at a couple of pitches he knows damn well he got himself out with tonight, Ken, with runners on base. And I can only imagine how he feels and has to fight himself to say, listen, you cannot do everything offensively every night for this team.
Right.
Somebody's got to help you. So don't, crucify yourself. And, like I said, tonight he had a couple of opportunities, and swung at pitches he usually doesn't swing at, and, flied out and rounded out. And, so I feel for Jose a little bit, Kenny, because he is a legitimate big-time major league run producer, but he has very few opportunities with this baseball team.
So let's see if this lineup, as the weather's starting to heat up, see if the bats can get going. If not, like we said, it could be a very long summer at the corner of Carnegie and Ontario. All right, Reg, let's get a break in right now. When we come back here on the Reghi and Roda podcast, powered by MGM Northfield Park, we're going to take a look at the NBA Finals, and just like everybody predicted, the Miami Heat taking on the Denver Nuggets for the NBA title this year. And Michael and I will give you our thoughts on how those two teams got there, and then who's going to win this best-of-7 series, which home field, or I should say home court advantage, is in favor of the Mile High City team in Denver. That's when we return here to the R&R podcast. Stay with us.
What's up, everyone? I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Tybus Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need to get you through the regular season, hopeful postseason, and I'd say off-season, Tybus, but is there really ever an off-season for this team?
Thankfully for our podcast, Holly, there really never is when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. Don't miss our breakdown of each week's matchup, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we know, Holly, dogs gotta eat.
Yes, they do. So hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of the Orange is Oranger, Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome back to the Reghi and Roda podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network. We are powered by MGM Northfield Park. Northfield Park is your home for live and simulcast racing. Catch the excitement of live harness racing every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday evening with a 6 p.m. post time. Wager and win daily on top thoroughbred and harness tracks from around the world with action starting around noon. Free admission, free parking every day at Northfield Park. All right, Reg. I wagered a little bit since gambling is legal now in Ohio and at Bushwood Country Club. And so on the NBA playoffs, I did some wagering before the playoffs started and throughout the playoffs. And one of my futures picks was the Denver Nuggets to win the NBA championship. I also made a future pick more so with the Boston Celtics meeting the Denver Nuggets in the finals. And so that didn't come to fruition. But I was smart enough, just for shits and giggles, Reg, to throw $5 down on the Miami Heat before the playoffs started because the odds were great, right? I'm like, you know what? Jimmy Butler, Eric Spoelstra, the Godfather, Pat Riley, if there's a dark horse coming out of nowhere for $5 to win 155 or whatever it is, right? I'll put some money down on the Miami Heat. And sure enough, They barely make into the play-in game. They lose the first play-in game. They win finally in the second play-in game to become the 8th seed.
With
and
a fourth quarter rally.
Yeah, that's
stay
right.
Alive, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And now Jimmy Buckets and 5, 6, 7 undrafted players with Eric Spoelstra pulling the strings are playing in the NBA Finals against the Joker, Nikola Jokic, and the Denver Nuggets. And the Boston Celtics are a laughingstock, Reg, because that's one of the most talented teams that may have played some of the dumbest basketball I've seen in a long, long time. Give me your thoughts on how this all transpired.
a compelling series, given that here's Miami. They go up 3-0, and then they put themselves in a position where they dropped 3 in a row, and now they got to go into TD Garden and to try to advance to the NBA Finals. So it was a strange way, Ken, to get to Game 7, right? I mean, We've seen a lot of 7-game series, but there hadn't been I remember one in earlier rounds, but a conference final where one team goes up 3-0, their opponent then whips them 3 straight times to force a Game 7. I thought going into last night, Kenny, that what was it, 0-150? Yeah. I've kind of thought, you know what, Boston has this figured out, and they've gotten, Miami has really, like Boston, like I said, they're up 3-0, and then they crap themselves a couple of times.
Right.
Jimmy Butler was, he's 3 of 22 in one game that they lost. And so, I mean, like, there's problems now for Miami. They had their shot. They couldn't put Boston away. Now they got issues. And then I'll be damned if Boston last night, Kenny, and here's one of the top 3, and not everybody's talking about their offense. Well, yeah, that was there was a lot that questions they got to answer about what they were doing offensively. But Kenny, they were a top 3 defense in the NBA all year too. And I mean, you just said it. I mean, Gabe Vincent and Max Strus and Duncan Robinson, the undrafted 5.
Yeah.
Came in and went into Boston and got the job done. And again, Jimmy Butler was okay, but Kenny, I believe last night he had 28 points. You know how many shots he took to get those 28 points?
About 25, somewhere in that vicinity?
27.
Okay.
So as you and I talk about all the time, that's not real efficient basketball. You take 27 shots and only have 28 points, not real good. But that undrafted 5, man.
We forgot Caleb Martin. We got to mention Caleb Martin.
And he's the top one. You're right. You're right. So Strus, Vincent, Martin, Robinson. Who's the 5th that I'm forgetting?
Haywood Highsmith.
Haywood Highsmith. Thank you. Haywood Highsmith, who, and I think you and I both are, we pretty much know everybody and their backgrounds. I couldn't tell you who the hell Haywood Highsmith was if my life depended on it before this series. And those 5 guys, I mean, they got the job done. It was unfortunate, but I don't know. Unfortunate that very first possession of the game, Kenny, when Tatum's going to the hole and he comes down on a foot and his ankle gives. But you know what? He stayed out on the floor. Give him credit for that. But I mean, I don't know if he was healthy, if that didn't happen, if they would have won anyway, because, I mean, this team, I believe the number is 16 in Game 6, and they won Game 6, Kenny. They won Game 6 on that putback to beat the buzzer from Gabe White. I think the number is, they were 16 of 68 in the last 2 games, Game 6 and 7 on threes. Somewhere in there, atrocious, about 20%. So, but yet I'm going to keep firing up, right? And so I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Do they have to break up? Do they have to break up Tatum and Brown? A lot of talk. I checked out a lot of the Boston shows today, and a lot of them talking about it. A lot of them talking about it. I don't know if I'd go that far, but regardless, when you don't, and again, you could say, well, what have they been? Haven't they been to 5 Eastern Conference Finals in the last 6 years? 7 years?
Something like that, yeah.
They get there, but now are they got enough to get themselves to get and win a championship? I don't know. That's their problem. That's their story, but man, you can't lose a Game 7, Ken, when after you battled back to get yourself even at 3 and you got the Game 7 at home and everything is going in your favor. I was a little surprised last night that they played so poorly so poorly in that kind of atmosphere and that close to getting to the finals.
Reg, the number 16 of 77 from 3-point range in the final 2 games.
Well, that's not even 20%.
It's 21%.
21, okay.
Yep. And inside the arc the last 2 games, you ready for this? 50 of 83 or 60%. And yet all they did was stand outside and jack up threes like they were the Golden State Warriors, that they had Steph Curry and Klay Thompson shooting for them, and they didn't. I sent it out on Twitter last night. You ever see the movie Along Came Polly with Ben Stiller and Jennifer Aniston? They're playing pickup basketball, and his buddy's out there going, rain dance, and he's throwing up brick after brick. White chocolate, and he's give me a TO, give me a timeout, Sasquatch. I mean, hysterical. That's who they look like. There were some god awful, and you know what? Al Horford needs to just retire, man. He's painful to watch. He was slow to begin with, and there are just certain guys in the league, Reg, and I've said this about a lot of them, that for whatever reason, they just ain't going to win a championship. Chris Paul, James Harden, Al Horford. There are certain guys, great guys, good team guys, but they just don't have what it takes, in my opinion, to get the job done when it matters most. And so in watching the Celtics, and the thing that really stood out to me yesterday was the difference in coaching in a championship game of that caliber when, the 14-year head man, Eric Spoelstra for the Miami Heat, went to that zone, and the first-year head coach, Joe Mazzulla, trying to fit. He had no idea what to do, and I think even if he suggested something, they probably looked at him and said, we ain't listening to you. Who are you, right? And that goes back to Brad Stevens when they fired their head coach and then settled on Mazzulla to be the coach of this team that had championship aspirations. And it was just night and day, and Spoelstra outcoached him in this whole series, like you said, with Robinson, Strus, Vincent, Highsmith, and Martin playing significant minutes. And also, Spoelstra is sitting Kevin Love after a while and realizing, okay, that experiment got us to this point.
That's right. Yeah.
Let's take him out of there.
Yeah, we know you're a veteran. Sorry, but you know what? You're not helping us. Can't play you. So, Kenny, and I'll tell you, to me, my MVP vote, if I had one, it would have went to Caleb Martin.
Me too. Absolutely. Without question. Without question. He was the more consistent scorer, and the reason they won the final 2 games. He was the difference.
That's right.
And so he would have got my vote too, but they gave it to Jimmy Buckets. But Jimmy doesn't care. He didn't. I mean, who was it? Bam Adebayo wanted to give him the trophy they won yesterday. He said, no, I'll hold the next one. I read his lips. That's what he said. So he wants the Larry O'Brien trophy. So do I count them out? No, I'm not going to never say never. As we saw with Jason Tatum, what if the Joker rolls an ankle, right? Yeah. And the door opens. So I'm picking Denver to win the series. Okay. They have the best player on the planet, arguably right now, in Nikola Jokic. They have maybe the 3rd best player in this series behind Butler, right? In Jamal Murray when healthy.
Yes.
Maybe the 4th best player in Michael Porter Jr. when, he wants to play. So and Denver has the home court advantage, and there is something, and not like there was in Boston where Miami won 3 games. Right. There is an advantage playing in that mile-high air in the mile-high city.
There is.
And so I like Denver to win this thing. I don't think it'll go past 6. It might end in 5. But if Denver wins the first 2, we could see a rather quick series, I think.
And the other thing that Denver has is former Cavaliers assistant coach and the son of a longtime NBA coach, Brendan Malone, Michael Malone. And I think he is doing a hell of a job and has been. Michael Malone he's going to show everybody that there are not many in the league that can hang with Spo, right? Michael Malone can.
Yep.
And I think that is going to prove to be, again, the talent. There's better talent on Denver. We just saw a series where the better talent didn't win.
Right.
And give Eric Spoelstra and those 5 undrafted guys a large attaboy for that. I just think that Denver is going to not give Miami the same type of opportunities. They'll defend them differently. Malone will run his offense, I think, and we know listen, Jokic doesn't care. Jokic will go get 18 assists if he has to.
Right.
He'll still get his 20 points, but he'll get 18 assists if he has to. And I just think it's all of it's going to be too much for Miami to overcome. I'm with you, man. I like Denver in this series. Probably no more than 6. Hell, might be in 5.
Yeah, Reg, and if they play that zone against Denver, they'll put Jokic in the middle at the foul line. He'll turn and
tear
face.
that apart.
Yeah, he'll kill it. Boston was dumb, stupid. They were all idiots. They couldn't figure that out. You're an NBA coach. You're an NBA player. You can't figure out. You attack the zone in the middle, turn and face, and you're going downhill 3-on-2 instead of settling for jump shot after jump shot after jump shot from beyond the arc like they did. It was stupid Boston basketball the last 2, and they were lucky to win Game 6, Reg. It was a miracle putback that won them that game because that was a horrible shot. And I love Spoelstra's comments after that game. He said, look, we denied Tatum the ball. We made somebody else beat him. They took a terrible shot. The ball just bounced their way on a putback. We did almost everything right. I want to play right now. I wish we could play right now. I don't want to wait 48 minutes. And he was exuding that confidence in his team, and it carried over. And you saw that from the get-go in game number 7. Those guys went out there. They fell behind by like 6 or 8 early, but then at the end of the first quarter, they led and never trailed the entire game.
The only thing I'll say for Boston there, Kenny, they had a 10-point lead in Game 6 with 3:25 left. They were playing well and had a 10-point lead. And then, again, a couple of offensive possessions, and you just said it, twice. Passed to Al Horford below the free throw line in the paint. Yep. And instead of just catching, there's nobody guarding him.
Right.
Nobody checking him. Instead of just catching him one stride to the hoop, all right, but that happened 3 different times. And he just stood there frozen and kicked the ball back outside. So, you know what? Yes. And then they blow the 10-point lead and got to have that final off the Marcus Smart missed 3, Gabe White ran in and got that put back in just before the red light came on. So, I mean, it's a fun series, but I don't know. There was a lot of confounding basketball in that series, no doubt about it.
The thing about Boston, and my son asked me who I thought would win Game 7, and I said, well, Boston's at home, but they don't handle pressure well. They've given up leads all season long in the fourth quarter.
Well, that's why they did it again.
Yeah,
they were up 10.
I felt that the pressure was all on the Celtics in Game 7, that even though Miami blew Game 6, they weren't supposed to win that series anyway. So they went in there with house money, and sure enough, they from start to they blew them out of the Garden, man. They just blew them out. And you're right. Al Horford did his best Ben Simmons impersonation where he didn't want to shoot the basketball. So retire Al Horford. Okay, you're done, and we'll see what the Celtics do, with that team moving forward. But yeah, I like the Denver Nuggets in. I'm going to put some money down on them to win it in 5, Reg.
Okay,
I think they'll give up 1 and get it done in 5. But I think that they'll be your NBA champs this year unless an injury occurs to Nikola Jokic or Jamal Murray. Okay,
I'm with you. They're playing too well, and they've got the type of they're not going to do the type of things to become their own worst enemy.
Right.
Against the Miami Heat that the Boston Celtics did. For that, I feel pretty confident, and that's why, I think Denver is going to win this series and win it handily, decisively.
Last thing before we get out of here. In seeing what you've seen during these playoffs, where are the Cavaliers as far as how far away are they from being a Miami Heat or a Denver Nuggets or even the you know what, Reg? I think the Cavaliers would have played the Celtics well because both teams are finesse teams. Both teams physically and mentally aren't up to the challenge on a night in, night out basis. So I think that the Cavaliers would have gave the Celtics a series, but that's the only team I think they would have given a series because everybody else is physical, including the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, no question about it, Kenny. And we both brought up what Eric Spoelstra does for the Miami Heat. We brought up what Michael Malone does for his Denver Nuggets. And And, well, we certainly can't say the same thing from that head coaching capacity right now about J.B. Bickerstaff. I'm sorry, I don't think he's anywhere near those two. And it does mean something. You may not say on a night in January or February when you're playing, the 4th and 5 nights and it's all about the players. Sure, I'll give you that. But, man, don't try to tell me from mid-April on through as long as you stay alive through the month of June that coaching doesn't play a huge factor at NBA playoff time. So where do we don't know. We don't know what the Cavaliers can. So that's the, you got to hope, we both like Evan Mobley a lot. We certainly hope that, he does his thing in the weight room this summer and adds that muscle. I don't know what to think about Jared Allen right now, Kenny. I just don't. I know, he'll have time. He defends well, but there are times too when it's too soft. It's too damn soft to play again, this time of year in these type of games and feel good about it. So, yeah, I don't know. And then it's like, hell, I know, because I brought it up. I know here on the Reghi and Roda podcast, and I'm going to stick with it. Ken, I think the first time I brought it up was when we were doing Cavs. I think it was February, might have been March. You're playing with a pair of 6'1" guys in the backcourt. And, yep, I know Donovan Mitchell's a hell of a player and Darius Garland's a hell of a player, but, man, they're 6'1". And that's something that isn't going to change. So I don't know. How is that going to could that continue to have negative effect on what the Cavaliers are doing? I guess time's going to tell. But again, to me, that's why I brought it up a few months ago. I think it can be a problem in this NBA, Ken.
Well, if they don't address the wing position, in my opinion, with a Cam Johnson, he's a restricted free agent or somebody like that. Yeah, I think it will be a problem if that's the way they go. So we'll see what Kobe Altman does this offseason. Speaking of front office, and we'll get out of here, Reg. I just saw a tweet, and I knew you'd appreciate this. Pat Riley, the Godfather, right?
Yep. Pat
Riley has appeared in the NBA Finals of in the history of the league. In 25% of them, 3 as a player, 10 as a coach, 6 as an executive. So he's been in 19 NBA finals in league history, or 25% of the finals he's either played in, coached in, or been an executive. So arguably one of the greatest all-around NBA guys in league history. And you and I have the utmost respect for Riles.
Without question, and those numbers are proof positive of the kind of effect he's had on whether a player, coach, general manager, vice president, doesn't matter. He's had that kind of strong effect on every team he's been associated with.
Well, let's hope that Kobe Altman can turn his career around and start getting the Cavaliers to some deep playoff runs and at least one NBA Finals, let alone 19.
That would be nice.
Yeah, it really would.
Real nice, yeah.
Yeah. All right, Reg, we're going to get out of here. We'll be back again with another edition of the R&R Podcast, powered by MGM Northfield Park here on the Press Play Podcast Network in the not-too-distant future. By then, we'll see if DeAndre Hopkins is a Brown. We'll see if the bats start booming for the Guardians, and we'll see if the Cavaliers make any moves to better their chances of improving a run or a deep run into the NBA playoffs. And we'll see if the Heat can pull off the upset of all upsets and shock the Denver Nuggets, or if it'll be the Joker raising that Larry O'Brien trophy. Reg, always a pleasure, bud.
Right back at you, Ken. We'll do it soon. Take care.